How effective was the Phazon really? Of all the scary things crawling around the Metroid universe, ranging from the titular Metroids themselves all the way to the extremely overpowered X-Parasites, a force often brought up in discussion is the Phazon. And many Metroid fans seem to believe that the Phazon is an extremely powerful force, and for my part as a YouTuber, I have seen more than my fair share of commenters requesting scenarios in which I pit certain other franchises, Warhammer, against the Phazon threat. But alas, I do think these commenters and much of the fan base has overhyped the effectiveness of Phazon. So, grab a snack and a drink and let's find out why. Let's begin by discussing what Phazon is to begin with. Its origins are mysterious, but Phazon is effectively a sort of superorganism, a geoform, a living mineral to be mined of sorts, which seems to have a sort of compounding intelligence, and that intelligence, in the case of the Milky Way galaxy at least, seems to have been compounded to planet Phaz itself, which is stated to be both alive and intelligent. Although not intelligent, it seems to have stopped Dark Samus from dominating it. Oh, and I was very intentional when I put emphasis on the Milky Way galaxy, as Phaz is located in, quote, across the galaxy from Phaz, but still very much in the galaxy. Meanwhile, a scam log from Metroid Prime 3 discussing Phazon states that it is of extragalactic in origin. Thereby, Phazon's wider range may extend far outside the Milky Way. But in short, Phazon was a living, sentient rock of sorts, and it propagated itself by creating under its surface living meteors called leviathans, which it would shoot out into the darkness of space to smash into planets, and once there, slowly corrupt the worlds, which would end up eventually turning into another Phaz. And credit to the Phazon, it really was terrifying to behold. Indeed, this completely immobile rock was somehow fast enough to grab beings outside of space and time, the souls of the Chozo, and bring them down into real space, and turn them into the vicious Chozo ghosts we all know and hate from Prime 1. However, that is the extent of the credit the Phazon deserves, because once you look at its track record, you'll see it is extremely ineffective. The first recorded instance of Phaz in the timeline comes from the Sky Town data, from the planet Elysia, which discusses how the Chozo who had settled there had observed Phaz some 1500 to 1450 years ago, before the events of Prime 3, and even then it was described as both sentient and alive. This means the planet was already active all the way back then. So with at least 1500 years, what did Phaz accomplish? On its own, we know Phaz can send Leviathans, a few at a time, out every century or so. But we know these Leviathans can home in on planets instinctively and create wormholes to expedite the trip. So that means with at least 15 of these Leviathan spreader events over those 1500 years, and let's say the entire planet shoots, say, 5 Leviathans per century, that means we're looking at a rate of 75 planet impacts during those 1500 years. Except that didn't happen at all. Despite all of this, out of that conservative 75 planets we expected to hit, we get a grand total of 2. Talon 4, which we see in Prime 1, and Planet Aether, which we see in Prime 2. The 3 planets in Prime 3 were done by Dark Samus and do not count. Hitting 2 planets out of 75 is a very pathetic 0.026% success rate. Not off to a good start already. And if you thought having a success rate of less than 1% was not bad enough, let's look at the planets Phaz did hit. On both Talon 4 and Aether, we again see failure. Both planets had been struck a whole 50 years before Samus visited them in 2026 of the cosmic calendar. And despite half a century to do their work against an already heavily weakened near-extinct civilizations that couldn't effectively oppose them, the Phazon did nothing. Remember, Phazon is supposed to turn planets into new phases, and does this look like a new phase to you? No. And even with 2 massive flukes on its side, such as the presence of the soon-to-be Metroid Prime on Talon 4, and the unique energies of Aether creating an entire alternate dimension called Dark Aether, with a built-in species and army attached, mind you, Phazon still failed to turn either planet into a new phase. And the new apex species they created, Metroid Prime, and more notably, the Ing, failed to achieve anything of significance. Indeed, the Ing, which are an intelligent race, couldn't even manage to escape the planet they were on. That means out of the 2 confirmed hits within 1500 years, the Phazon has a 0% success rate. And the 2 civilizations it hit, by the way, that it just so happened to wipe out, the Talon Chozo and very nearly the Luminoth, were species that were already in decline, far past their heyday. And the one and only time in the series we actually see a modern planet get hit, the pirate homeworld, we see it's just business as usual for them. So in conclusion, the Phazon's garbage. I hope you guys will stop commenting on how I should use them in versus battle videos, because they really will just lose and do nothing. But you know how I leave you. Be safe, be wise, and please pray for a true peace in space.